Hello, everybody. Scott Golden, Pro Wrestling Logic YouTube channel here, and we are going to discuss the AEW television program for the 10th of June, 2020. Can't believe we're already in June. Been behind a little bit on some things. Been really busy with work, so there's a lot of stuff that I want to update. But in short, we will have the NXT review up in a couple of hours. We will have AEW Dark and Impact up within the next few hours as well. Then we are getting back to the TNT reviews with some superstar stuff at your requests interspersed. Please like, subscribe, comment, and do all of that good stuff. Overall, tonight's Dynamite review is a mixed bag, really. There were some things I really liked on this program, and there were some things that made me cringe and really kind of wish they were doing things differently. I can't compare it with NXT yet. I'll do that in the NXT review. Have not watched NXT yet. Rare night that I'm able to follow up this soon after a Dynamite show. But anyway, so we move into the program, and the show begins with a highlight package of last week. Everybody knows that I'm not a fan of highlight packages. I think they devalue watching the show weekly, episodically for fans, and for those that say, well, you got to have them for people that don't watch, well, hang on. If your announcers are doing their job, then they should be able to get the stories across in the matches to where highlight packages aren't really needed. And I think wrestling in general over the last 20 or 30 years has become too reliant on highlight packages. It's just a personal opinion, but that's what we've got. Chris Jericho joins Excalibur, Jim Ross, and Tony Schiavone at the announcer's table in the early stages. I'm not a fan of this only because I don't like the four-man booth, but I would be totally fine if we got rid of Excalibur and put Jericho in there full-time or almost full-time. Jericho is phenomenal on commentary. We know where he's going when he retires from in-ring if he desires to. Schiavone, I love. He's my favorite announcer in wrestling right now. And Ross is hit or miss. And when he's inspired, there's an angle he likes. You can definitely tell he's excited. He's excitable. But if there's something he doesn't like, he's not that impressed, and it's easy to tell. So we start with FTR, which, why couldn't they come up with a better name than FTR? I just, if this is going to be like one of your top 2 or 3 tag teams, just initials doesn't do it. People are going to go, what's that stand for? And they really can't talk about it. I mean, they touched on it in the interview last week, but to refer to them just by those initials, I don't really think that's going to get too far. It makes it harder to merchandise. Anyway, so Harwood and Butcher and Blade start. So it's Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler, otherwise known as the former Revival. I question Butcher and Blade being the first opponents. The match was fine, and they were able to work around it in the sense of Butcher and Blade not being standout talents. Not that they should have been in there with the Young Bucks, but I would have put them in there with a more athletically equal team to begin. I would have even put them in there with enhancement talent who could athletically keep pace with them just to give them something to begin with. This, at times, seemed a bit plodding and a bit just kind of bulky. Anyway, but Harwood and Blade begin the match. Harwood uses a side headlock, and they exchange strikes early. Harwood uses a couple of pinning combinations for near falls, and then a headlock takeover and a Northern Light suplex for another near fall. Wheeler and Butcher tag in respectively. Wheeler with a dropkick that's beautifully done. And then Wheeler feigns a shoulder injury. He rolls up Butcher for a near fall. I love that they are looking at winning as the most important thing. And even if they are baby faces right now, still to be determined, I wonder what a live crowd would have done with them. But let's assume they're baby faces for the moment. For them to use that level of psychology early really intrigues me, because it means in matches with more meat on the bone, they're going to do other great mental related stuff. Butcher and Blade cut him off and isolate him in their corner, and then Wheeler uses a jawbreaker to set up a tag to Harwood. Harwood hits a dragon screw and a brainbuster on Blade. Wheeler and Harwood hit a tandem draping DDT on Blade. Harwood hits Blade with a superplex, and Wheeler then immediately hits a top rope splash for near fall. They're doing a little much here, especially for guys who tend to be more body part guys, but they do slow it down here in a minute, which is good. Blade rolls him up for a 2 count, and Butcher tags in. They hit a Magic Killer Uranagi for a near fall. The finish sees Wheeler and Harwood hit the Butcher with a Goodnight Express, which is basically a new name for the Shatter Machine. Spike Pile Driver on Blade for the win. A strong win, but they still could have done a little bit more in terms of giving them more in the match and using their tandem stuff a little bit more. I think they still gave a little too much in terms of flashy stuff, but that's just me wishing that we could turn back the clock and do a little more mat wrestling. And so Shivani heads to the ring and he interviews FDR. Harwood said AEW is the pinnacle of wrestling and they are the pinnacle of tag teams. Young Bucks enter. Nick Jackson says that they were there to congratulate FTR on a great match, and Matt says he thanked FTR for helping them out two weeks ago. Matt and the Butcher have Matt and the Bucks, I don't know why I put Butcher there, had carried tag team wrestling for the last decade and a half. I don't know that is the way to go. Anyway, FDR jumped the Bucks from behind, and Jimmy Havoc and Kip Sabian run in. Kenny Omega and Hangman Page run in, and FDR, Omega, Page, and the Bucks cleared the ring to end the segment. I don't like all the teams in there. I would have left the spotlight on the Bucks and FDR, or I would have just teased it and had them not really touch that much. Anyway, I'm not a fan of multi-person or multi-team matches as it is, and I think there's a little bit too much going on to end that segment. Anyway. Will be QT's turn. If so, it's either going to be QT's turn Shida nails a Falcon Arrow on Ford finally for a near fall. Sabian grabs Shida's ankle, and Statlander hits a suicide dive onto Sabian, which I don't know if that qualifies as man and woman violence, and I don't know how. Um, the announcers put over that Ford, after pinning, could be in a line for a title shot. No, please, no. Um, Darby Allin video package. He's not cleared to wrestle. Tony Hawk makes a special cameo appearance, and he said that Allin didn't need to be cleared to skateboard. Kind of a cool thing if you're looking for crossover celebrity. I don't know that the target demo is really familiar with Tony Hawk, but they might look him up, and it gives Darby Allin credibility. I just think Tony Hawk might be a celebrity from an earlier generation, and it might not be the target. I don't know that, though. It's just my gut feeling. Britt Baker out with a promo. Baker said she's faced more challenges than Big Swole or anyone else in AEW. She said she's happy to be a role model for anyone, but needs to be respected. I love that they're putting her on TV every week. That's the best woman they have in the division at this point. Then we've got the six-man tag. Orange Cassidy, Trent, and Chuck Taylor versus Jake Hager, Santana, and Ortiz. Inner Circle jumps before the bell. They're doing the jump before the bell too often. Hager goes for Cassidy on the stage. Santana and Trent go after each other, and Santana hits some strikes. Best friends make a comeback. Taylor with a tope. Trent hits a spear on Ortiz on the floor. Inner Circle cuts off Taylor. Hager nails a Vader bomb. Inner Circle works over Taylor for several minutes, and during the commercial break as well. Trent tags in, gets cut off, and Cassidy gets a hot tag, goes nuts, hits a double poison Rana on Santana and Ortiz, which was really cool looking. As much as the purists don't like Orange Cassidy, I get it. He's a guy who does the bare minimum until it counts, and then he shines. I get that. I understand that character. I wish they were letting somebody do some just character profile work on him somehow, even if he's holding up notebook paper to cut promos. If he doesn't want to speak, I get that too, but something, even if it's a sentence or two a week, would do well here. Cassidy is up with a DDT on Santana. Cassidy goes to the top, and Hager cuts him off. All six men jump in, and the match breaks down into a complete mess. Inner Circle clears the ring and isolates Cassidy. Santana goes for a street sweeper, but Taylor shoved him off the top rope. Really, this is just phenomenally done, and as quick-paced as it is, this makes sense because there's enough guys to make it work. Cassidy uses a crucifix to pin Ortiz. Now the fun starts. Jericho leaves the commentary table. He runs to the ring, and he has his baseball bat, easy for me to say, named Floyd. Jericho leaves them laying, and somewhere along the way, Cassidy gets color. I mean, he looks like he's bleeding pretty profusely in this segment. It's pretty cool to look at. And then Jericho retrieves a bag of blood red oranges from under the ring and beats Cassidy down with them. That's cool. I mean, you could sell, man, there's ways to go with that. Imagine selling Orange Cassidy blood orange stress balls to kids. Market it like when you're stressed out, just pull an Orange Cassidy. I love it. I think there's money in that. There's a way to come back with that, and it's interesting. It's unique. It's different. I don't think it's been done before, and you could really have fun with it. Jericho then says that Blood Orange Cassidy has just been juiced. Awesome angle. Hopefully it leads to a one-on-one match where Cassidy goes over on Jericho at some point, and then it leads to spinning off somewhere else. Maybe even Cody and Cassidy at some point for the TNT Championship. Anyway, MJF cuts promo. He says he's been undefeated for over a year, yet somehow Jungle Boy gets the TNT Championship match last week. He's not happy with this. MJF also says that he's the Great White Shark. Not sure I get that, but anyway, he is swimming in a pool of minnows, and Billy Gunn interrupts, says he's a great white. Actually, he's a great tan. Okay, that was bad. Anyway, MJF's shocked that Billy isn't trying to get another one of his worthless sons into a Billy go at it next week. Dark Order video trying to recruit Colt Cabana. Sammy Guevara defeats Colt Cabana. Guevara comes out with the scooter. He's still selling his injuries from the Stampede match. He, however, is good once the bell rings. Cabana comes out with a scooter to mock Sammy. This is a fun little comedy spot. They exchange gestures of a less than friendly variety and immediate cutoff. They go to commercial. Cabana comes back, blocks a GTS attempt. Cabana hits a flip-flop and fly and a bionic elbow. Cabana hits a flying apple for near fall. Hits a moonsault. Yeah, Newport? No. Moonsault for another near fall. And then finish sees Cabana goes for the Chicago skyline. Cabana slips and Guevara then hits the GTH. Go to hospital for the pinfall. Post-match, Brody Lee comes in, enters with the Dark Order. Lee helped Cabana to his feet and then left Cabana. And Cabana follows, and they go through the dark side tunnel as the announcers turn it. And I lose my microphone off the microphone stand. Hopefully you all didn't hear that, but you probably did. Anyway, so we then see basically a tease for him to go heel. Guevara then demands that his music be played. He's the best wrestler in AEW, he says. Matt Hardy enters and says he's got no problem with Sammy. Says Sammy's the future. Reminds him of a younger version of himself. Hardy says Sammy needs to realize he needs to leave Chris Jericho. Hardy says in Matt Fact's version that he likes to see Guevara get run over. Then he goes into the Damascus version, said he would eat and delete Sammy. A completely useless Joey Janela video package aired. Janela said he came to AEW to be a star, but he's gone from wrestling Moxley to an afterthought. Says he's lost his way. He's drinking at a bar. Don't they already have someone doing that? Someone who actually has, I don't know, an upside? And then he says that he thinks his best days in wrestling are behind him. Sonny Kiss pulls up into a convertible. tells Janela to get in. I don't know where this is going. I don't think I want to know. Anyway, so then we go to Dasha tracks down Cabana. She asks him if he really is going to do this. He enters Lee's dressing room while ignoring her. Billy with Austin Gunn next week. Omega and Page versus Natural Nightmares for the Tag Team Championships next week. Jericho and Guevara versus the Best Friends for a shot at the Tag Team Championships at the Fyter Fest multi-week program, which I don't understand that concept. I understand naming shows. I don't understand naming TV shows if they're going to be on your regular network. If they're going to be on a different network and it's a one-of-a-kind thing, sure, but I don't get the whole let's name random TV shows just because. Anyway, Alex Marvez, which I don't get why he's still here. Anyway, he interviews Jon Moxley. Moxley said he's in a bad mood. It hurts to do anything. His back and neck hurt. He says he's tired of Taz running his mouth. Moxley then says what sets him apart is that he's miserable. His misery makes him train and work harder, hit harder. He's angry at Taz and Cage. He promised to pop Cage's head like a pimple. That would be really bloody, especially with how big Brian Cage everything is. Anyway, Taz approaches, confronts Moxley. Cage then attacks Moxley from behind. They brawl all over the place in the parking lot. Cage hits a spine buster on Moxley on the hood of a car. He threatens to powerbomb him. Taz tells him not to do it, and they sent their message. Cage ignores Taz and powerbombs Moxley onto a trunk of a car. I like bits of this. The fact that not even Taz can control Cage is good. The fact that they're really pushing Cage is good. Do I think that Cage is ready to challenge Moxley after being here for less than a month? No, I think he should have been built up. I think he should have beaten people for 6 weeks, maybe even knock Cody out and get a count-out victory for the TNT title, and then around September maybe you do Cage versus Moxley. I think it's way too soon to do it. I think they're hyping it, wasting it, and everything else. But for what they're doing, the quality of do I want to see the match? Yes, I just wish they were drawing it out. Anyway, video package before the main event, and Cody puts over Quinn as a top-level opponent. Cody basically says he wants to prove he's better bell-to-bell than people think, and that's why he's doing the open challenge. The open challenge thing only works, though, if random wrestlers come in and not just people under TNT or AEW contract. Cody says his effort needs to be at the best. Really good match considering the style clashes. So we have Cody with Arn Anderson defeats Mark Quinn to retain the championship. Like I said, good match for what it was. And it's certainly clear that Cody can carry younger talent to really good matches. Cody may be turning here, which I think would be interesting. And they shake hands at the bell. They trade basic moves, tackles, drop downs, and the like, and a standing moonsault and a drop kick. Cody applies a dragon sleeper right before they go to commercials. The announcers put over the ankle injury to Quinn that took place several weeks back. Cody tosses Quinn to the outside. Cody stomps on the ankle, goes after the ankle pretty viciously. And then we see the ankle give out on Quinn when he goes for springboard. Cody posted the left ankle on Quinn. Cody hits an inverted superplex off the top rope. Quinn comes back with a corkscrew DDT, which was just amazing and out of nowhere. I don't agree with Quinn hitting 2 dives to the floor after that, though. Not if the ankle hurts, but anyway. Cody jumps back in, and then there's a flip dive by Quinn. The finish sees Quinn go for shooting star press. Cody sidestepped it, and then Cody applies an ankle lock onto Quinn. Quinn taps out. Both men embrace and shake hands after the match. Quinn left the ring to Cody and Arn. Jake Hager enters. Hager went after Arn, which is dastardly and horrible. Cody goes after Hager, and Hager drops him with a slam. Cassidy and Quinn and Hardy run out to make the save. They hit Jake Hager with chairs. Hardy clotheslined him to the floor. The members of the Inner Circle run out. A brawl breaks out. Hardy hits Guevara with a twist of fate. Cody goes after Hager with a chair. Cody grabs the mic, says that he will give him a TNT championship match at Fyter Fest. So, I don't know. I'm not a fan of that. I mean, that's assuming that he makes it 2 or 3 weeks to that event for 2 weeks for that match. You know, if he says we can fight and we can fight at Fyter Fest and if I still have the championship, I'll put it on the line too. That's fine, but it makes it predictable if he's already saying he'll put the championship on the line. So I'm not a fan of that. Overall, I'd say 60% of the show is good. 40% could be improved upon, but overall a good show for what it's worth. In any event, I encourage you to check it out for yourself, and I will be back with more content momentarily. Until next time, keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. Until next time, everybody.